Hi there, welcome to my next video in these videos that I've been doing on various aspects of piano technique. Now this video is slightly different. I've been asked to talk a little bit about chord theory and particularly talk about jazz chords and how they can be useful and how we form jazz chords. I will probably deal with the technique side of it a little bit as well. First of all, we have what we call the triads. Now, the triad chords are built on 3 notes, and I'm going to do this in the key of C major, but you can obviously do it in any key you wish. So the first chord we want to look at, the first triad, is the C triad. We take the note C, we move up 4 semitones, that's the smallest distance possible on a keyboard or piano, 1, 2, 3, 4, to land on E, then we move up 3 semitones, 1, 2, 3, to land on G. And that gives us the C major triad. You can do this in any key starting on different notes. So B flat major, you start on B flat. You can play those 3 notes in any order, anywhere on the piano, and repeat notes. We can do this. And it is a C major chord. The next triad is the minor triad. And what we do is we take our major triad and we move the middle note down a semitone. And you can hear the darker sound. So the middle note has now become E flat. The other way of working it out is you can take your C and move up 3 semitones, then 4. 4, then 3 for the major, 3, then 4 for minor. The next one is the diminished triad. This has an even darker sound. We take our minor triad and we move our top note down a semitone. So we get C, E flat, and then F sharp for the top note. Again, you can practice playing these triads in different orders of notes in different places on the piano to get used to doing that. And the final triad is the augmented. Here, we take our C major triad and move our top note up a semitone, stretching it apart, so the top note becomes a G sharp. Now, we can obviously practice arpeggios to get used to this, and I've done another video on different techniques for practicing arpeggios. But as well as doing arpeggios on the major and minor chords, which is fairly straightforward, we can do it using diminished and augmented chords. And we could do all the same technique that we would practice on the major and minor chords. We could also practice chord sequences. You could practice C major chord going to F, going to G, going to C, and things like that to get used to finding these positions. And a good thing with any chord practice is eventually to try it with your eyes closed so you really get to know the distances that your hands need to move. So, that's our 4 triads. Now, the next step is to look at what we call the 5 primary jazz chords. These are the 5 jazz chords that we use most often. The first one is the major 7th. And here we take our C major chord, or whichever key we're in, and we add the 7th note of C major scale on top of the chord. Which gives us a very nice sound. C major 7th is normally notated in chord notation as C, Maj, M-A-J, 7, C, capital M, 7, or sometimes C followed by a triangle shape. The next one is the minor 7th chord. Here we take our minor chord and we add on the 7th note, but we make the 7th note flat. So you have C, E flat, G, and B flat. And this will be notated in the music as C, min 7, short for minor, C, lowercase m7, or even sometimes C minus and 7. Then we have the dominant 7th chord, which is perhaps the most common jazz chord, which would simply be notated as C7. Here we take our C major chord and we add on the flattened 7th note, so the B flat. Then, the 4th of our 5 primary triads, 5 primary chords, is the half diminished 7th. Here we take our diminished triad C, E flat and G flat. And we add on the normal flattened 7th, the B flat. That would normally be indicated in the music as C, lowercase 7, flattened 5th, flat 5, or sometimes C followed by a circle with a diagonal line crossing it, 7. And then the final one of the 5 primary jazz chords is the diminished 7th, which is C, E flat, G flat, the diminished triad, with the 7th note lowered 2 semitones to an A. With the diminished 7th chord, all of the notes are a minor third or 3 semitones apart. And diminished 7th chord would be notated as C, dim 7, or C, circle 7. Before I talk about the secondary jazz chords, just to say you can practice all these chords. So we can do C 7th as an arpeggio. And so on. And you can practice doing that using all the different techniques I've done in my video on arpeggio. So I've talked about using different rhythms, different inversions, staccato, legato, all sorts of things. You can also practice finding these chords in different inversions and just getting the hands really comfortable with where they need to go. Now, we move on now to our 5 secondary jazz chords. So these are used less often, but nevertheless they're still very useful to have knowledge of. And we start with the augmented major 7th. So we take our chord, our triad, and we make it augmented. So we've got C, E, G sharp, and we add in the major 7th note, B. Quite a nice crunchy sound there, quite a nice spicy sound to use. That is indicated as C, aug, triangle, or C plus triangle, normally. Then we have the augmented 7th. Here we take our augmented chord, C, E, G sharp, and the flattened 7th, B flat. That's indicated as C, aug 7, or C plus 7. Next is the minor major 7th. Here we have our minor triad, C, E flat and G flat, but we add on the major 7th note, the B. And that is indicated as C, lowercase m triangle, or sometimes C minus triangle. Next we have our 2 6th chords. These are quite useful. We have the major 6th, which is the major chord, with the 6th note of the scale, A. And that would be indicated as C6. And then finally the minor 6th, which is the minor chord, C, E flat, G, with the 6th note, A, which is indicated as C, lowercase m6, sometimes C min 6 or C minus 6. There's one more chord that is also quite useful and is worth just mentioning. That's the suspended 4th. With the suspended 4th, we take our major chord, but we change the middle note to the 4th note of the scale. So we get C, F, and G. It's got that nice kind of tension. It wants to resolve itself. And we can add on the 7th note on that, which is quite a nice chord. The suspended 4th is normally indicated as a C sus, S-U-S, lowercase, or sometimes C sus 4. Now, to practice these jazz chords, quite a good step is to use your 12-bar blues pattern, which uses chord 1 for 4 bars, and then it goes to chord 4, so in the key of C major and F chord for 2 bars, back to chord 1 for 2 bars, to chord 5, which would be G in the key of C, back to chord 4, back to chord 1 for 2 bars. You can use that and practice these chord progressions to do it using the dominant 7th chords. 2, 3, 4. And using different inversions and things. Do it with the major 7th. You can make up little accompaniment patterns. You can do some basic kind of improvising, but using mostly chords if you wish to, so just get used to that. So anyway, I hope that's been a useful little talk about some of the jazz chord theory. Do let me know your comments, and feel free to leave any comments you wish, or any suggestions of things you'd perhaps like me to look at, and have fun practicing these, and I shall upload some more videos soon. Do feel free to check out the Facebook page, Jonathan Delbridge Piano.